goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Wednesday, July 8th, 2015, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us for the next 2 hours of news and interviews you can use for the cannabis community. Got all sorts of great guests joining us, one by phone and one in studio. So plenty happened on the show today. Also, plenty happened earlier today, but before I tell you about that, I have some bad news to deliver. Yes, it's unfortunate, but the long-time bong that we use here at 420 Radio, the Rolla J Studios official bong, broke yesterday. I know, it's a damn shame. Yes, it's my fault. It's my fault. Caught my shirt on the edge of it, tumbled over, and crashed in a cacophony of broken glass and stinky bong water. It's happened to the best of us, and that bong did serve quite well for years and years and years, but it was Herb Thrasher's favorite bong. So I went out and purchased a new bong today. Little guy, not even a foot tall, maybe 9 inches tall, maybe not even that, 7 inches tall maybe. And a little beaker-shaped plain glass, got a Portland Normal sticker on it, and we'll get to using that this week, and I'm sure Herb Thrasher will really like it. All right, on today's show, our guests today, we at 1:30 will be speaking with our good friend Doug Fine in our Hempday, Humpday update. The Oregon legislature has just concluded its session and didn't move on industrial hemp, so it's moving forward. Doug's going to give us all the details on that and the other states that are reviving America's billion-dollar crop. Then, in the Radical Rant segment, we'll have a special guest here in the studio. Fresh Buds PDX dispensary owner Jay Bakes will be joining us. He's the man who single-handedly avoided a riot at his store when he showed up at 2 a.m. to find all these people out front expecting free weed. We'll talk to him about that experience and what he thinks about legalization as we move forward. Also coming up on the show today in drug war data mining, Tetra Trak, which is a company in Washington State, has produced a white paper on Washington marijuana legalization. What have the results been, and what does the consumer market look like, the producer market look like? How will things change now that they've changed their tax scheme from 3 times 25% to 137% tax? We'll talk all about that in the drug war data mines. Also on the show today, in Behind the Headlines, Jacob Sullum has a great piece up in Newsweek countering the media on the Journal of American Medical Association's recent published study that supposedly says medical marijuana doesn't work. Well, the media blew a lot of that out of proportion, and Jacob does a good job taking them to task on that. And then, of course, we start everything off with the 420 Radio News. In the news today, we got some international stories, headlines out of Canada on the sales of medical marijuana products. The South American country of Chile is looking to reform its marijuana laws. We have a study on marijuana versus alcohol and the use among young people. Miami Beach has followed Miami-Dade County in passing a marijuana decrim ordinance. And we've got an interesting story about ethics and gift giving in the California Senate. And the gifts happen to be marijuana. Then stay tuned for Hour 2 Toker Talk Radio. We'll get a call in from our good friend Gordon Green. He's got some Japanese metal for us. Somebody tell Herb Thrasher. And then we'll end up the show, the last half hour, with my presentation today on the details of Oregon marijuana legalization now that the legislature is out of session. It's the Russ Belville Show. Stick around. We're back with the news right after this.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
420 Radio, your ticket to the High Times Cannabis Cups.
420 Radio is brought to you by Sacred Serum, who is focused on creating elegant and sophisticated cannabis solutions through its line of dispensers and vaporizers that come preloaded with the world's finest cannabis concentrate. Sacred Serum's concentrate is made on pharmaceutical-grade supercritical CO2 extraction machines that use absolutely no butane or other toxic chemicals. The Vesica, the company's innovative new way to dab and frost, is now available in dispensaries across California. Sacred Serum, elegance and sophistication concentrated.
Hey, this is Big Daddy.
I like it like that.
I want you cats to join me at the Funky Roller Ring, right here on 420 Radio.
Stop here at this gas station.
It's like the Groove and Soul Town smashed together with a greasy pork sandwich on the side, baby.
2 hot dogs and a strawberry soda.
Funky Roller Ring.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for Normal. And I smoke pot and I like it a lot. I learned a long time ago that marijuana is a lot safer than alcohol. There's nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana by adults. It's time we stopped arresting and started respecting those who smoke marijuana responsibly. To learn what you can do to help, contact Normal at norml.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORMAL.
It's time for the 420 Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Transcripts of 420 Radio News are available daily on our website at 420radio.org. Now, here's Russ Belville with your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, July 8th, 2015. In a big backtrack on its tough talk, the government of Canada will be allowing the sale of cannabis oil to medical marijuana users, meaning patients with prescriptions will be able to eat all sorts of THC-rich delights in the near future. The decision comes on the back of a major loss for Ottawa in a constitutional challenge to its prohibitions on marijuana edibles and oils. The Supreme Court of Canada struck down the criminal prohibition on possession, but said nothing about the regulations on sale. That left medical marijuana vendors in a legal gray zone. That changed today when Health Minister Rona Ambrose announced that cannabis oil and fresh marijuana buds would be authorized for sale, both of which can be used to bake cookies, brownies, and make products that are easier to ingest than dried marijuana, which has to be smoked. Under the new requirements, those producers licensed to sell medical marijuana must only sell and distribute the pot through the mail and indicate the THC content of the products, use child-resistant packaging, report any adverse reactions to the products, and they must not make any therapeutic claims of their product. A bill which will allow Chileans to grow small amounts of marijuana for medical, recreational, or spiritual use has been approved by the country's lower house of Congress. The measure will allow each Chilean home to grow up to 6 plants. Up to now, planting, selling, and transporting marijuana has been punishable by up to 15 years in prison. The new bill will go before a health commission and then the Senate for approval. Members of the lower house approved the bill by a wide margin, with 68 in favor and 39 against. However, some lawmakers criticized the result, saying it would encourage drug use. Marijuana seems to act as a substitute for alcohol when people hit the minimum legal drinking age, a recent study found. The study, published in the Journal of Health Economics, found, perhaps not surprisingly, that alcohol consumption spikes among people just over the age of 21. But it also found that marijuana use experienced a substantial drop at the same age. The finding is important to the debate about how public policy to regulate the substances, as economic substitutes, how strictly marijuana laws are enforced would affect alcohol use, and vice versa, because people will tend to use whichever substance is cheapest or most available. Public opinion polls have shown that Americans view alcohol as far more dangerous than marijuana by a nearly 5-to-1 margin. Studies have padded this opinion, showing that alcohol poses a greater danger to both users and to the public. Miami Beach commissioners unanimously passed a marijuana ordinance Wednesday to fine those caught with small amounts of marijuana instead of sending them to jail. The move comes a week after Miami-Dade commissioners passed a similar ordinance. Under the new law, police will have the option of issuing a $100 fine to those caught with less than 20 grams of marijuana. The difference between the Miami-Dade County ordinance is that the fines collected in Miami Beach will go to the city and not the county. The Miami Beach Police Department said the ordinance will save the city about $40,000 in costs associated with the arrest and prosecution of possession cases. A political aide to California Senate President pro tempore Kevin DeLeon accepted at least $85 in marijuana products from a pot lobbyist at the end of May before discussing how his boss needed to be educated into taking a more liberal stance on medical marijuana. According to California's Political Reform Act, both full-time employees and contracted consultants for state legislators are barred from accepting unreported gifts worth more than $10 from lobbyists in any given calendar month. However, the advisor in question inhabits what several ethics experts describe to BuzzFeed News as a legal loophole, because although he refers to Senator DeLeon as his boss, he is technically paid by the California Democratic Party and therefore is not required by law to report his gift. Therefore, Josh Drayton, a political advisor to DeLeon via a group called the Senate Democrats, cheerfully accepted at least one hash oil-filled vaporizer pen and a container of marijuana edibles from pot lobbyist Nate Bradley in front of a BuzzFeed News reporter. Harry Pinson is not blowing smoke when he says he's a big supporter of Oregon's nearly week-old law legalizing the recreational use of marijuana. He has built an enormous joint on the top of his Oregon gift shop on I-5 next to the enormous statues of Amanita muscaria mushrooms on the same building. This has been your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, July 8th, 2015. I'm Russ Belville. 420 Radio, turning red states and blue states green. The Fingerboard extension has fretted instruments to enhance your creativity. It has new and used guitars and banjos from beginning to high class. The Fingerboard extension has National Resophonic, Husson Dalton, Larrabee, Heritage and Recording King guitars, and Mike Ramsey, Wildwood, Gold Tone, and Recording King banjos. The Fingerboard extension also has drum stuff, used gear, and parts. Stop by the Fingerboard extension, downtown Corvallis, Oregon at 120 Northwest 2nd, or check out the inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com and reverb.com.
Despite strong public support for medical cannabis, decriminalization, and legalization in Georgia, the state spends $121 million every year to arrest, prosecute, and imprison Georgians for simple possession. Each year, the state of Georgia spends less on driver services, agriculture, and forestry combined. What else can $121 million a year do in Georgia? With that much money, the state could hire and keep 3,000 more teachers, improve roads and bridges, provide tax relief for small businesses, repair aging sewage systems, or lower taxes. But right now, that's millions of dollars of your tax money wasted on failed enforcement. Tell your representative you're tired of wasteful spending and ask them to end cannabis prohibition. Join the conversation at www.peachtreenormal.org. Peachtree Normal is a proud affiliate of NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Oregon has joined Washington and Colorado in legalizing marijuana. We're Portland NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws chapter in Portland, Oregon. Join us as we celebrate the launch of an exciting new era in marijuana freedom in Oregon. Our job has just begun. Powerful interests want to white out the most important portions of Oregon's legalization law. By joining Portland NORML, you add your voice to the thousands who voted for Measure 91 and want it to be implemented as written. The people have spoken. Now it is time for the legislature to obey the will of the people. Find out more about Portland NORML at portlandnormal.org. Attend our monthly membership meetings on the fourth Saturday of the month. See our website for more details. Portland NORML, ensuring responsible adult marijuana consumers are afforded the same rights, privileges, and responsibilities as beer drinkers. Welcome back. As we go behind the headlines today, Newsweek magazine has an opinion piece, Evidence on Marijuana's Medical Usefulness Mounts. And this is by Jacob Sullum, who's a writer for Reason magazine. And it addresses a story that many of the mainstream media outlets covered last week, which was the current issue of the Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA. Has two articles that reviewed the medical utility of marijuana and came to similar conclusions about how useful medical marijuana is. This caused the mainstream media to trumpet headlines like evidence of medical marijuana's usefulness is scant, researchers say, or medical marijuana doesn't really work for most of the things it's prescribed for, and so forth. Just really blowing this up all across the internet, and even on TV. I've seen some reporting on this. And the problem is, well, first of all, they underreported one of the significant findings of the two meta-analyses, and that is there is good evidence supporting the treatment of chronic pain, neuropathic pain, and spasticity. And they didn't really trumpet that so much, but that, in fact, is what we have the best scientific evidence for medical's usefulness, is pain, especially neuropathic pain. And plenty of evidence that THC, the primary psychoactive constituent in cannabis, is effective at relieving nausea and giving people an appetite, the so-called munchies. So what this study involved was a review. So understand that it's a meta-analysis, which means they go back and they look at previously published studies, and they gather them all together and they crunch some numbers on them to say, what do all these studies say on average? That's kind of what's going on. And so it was commissioned by the Swiss Federal Office on Public Health, and the senior research fellow at the University of Bristol, her name's Penny Whiting, and the co-authors considered 79 randomized clinical trials of cannabinoids involving about 6,500 subjects. And so you're like, wow, all right, 79 studies, almost 7,000 people. My God, we must learn something here. Here's the problem. Only 2 of the 79 studies assessed marijuana. 2 out of 79 actually looked at medical marijuana. The rest of them were marijuana-based medications like Marinol, the synthetic THC, or Sativex, that oral spray that's a cannabis extract. And the point they miss in doing those kind of studies is something that Dr. Sanjay Gupta and others have referred to as the entourage effect of using whole plant cannabinoids, where you get the terpenes and the flavonoids and all these other things that work synergistically with each other that provide much greater effect than any of the individual components of cannabis itself. So, looking through those studies of, Marinol or Sativex, they tried to find, any evidence that it helped nausea or vomiting or loss of appetite, chronic pain, spasticity, depression, anxiety, sleep disorder, glaucoma, psychosis, Tourette's. And this is what they quoted. They said, there was moderate quality evidence to support the use of cannabinoids for the treatment of chronic pain and spasticity. Hey, moderate quality. We got good science on there. There was low quality evidence suggesting that cannabinoids were associated with improvements in nausea and vomiting due to chemotherapy, weight gain in HIV, sleep disorders, and Tourette syndrome. And for the rest of the things, they said the evidence was inadequate. There was no evidence to say one way or the other. But again, these people are studying the effect of single cannabinoids or Sativex spray and not taking a look at how whole plant medical marijuana is helping in already 24 states and District of Columbia. Now, the FDA itself has already approved Marinol, and in approving Marinol, that's synthetic THC. The reason they approved it is they had plenty of evidence that showed it was good for nausea, especially for chemotherapy patients. And they've also found other trials. Kevin Hill, who's a psychiatrist, the author of the other review in the journal, doesn't include the studies of these applications, but he took a look at 28 randomized clinical trials of cannabinoids and applied some different criteria and found that the use of marijuana for chronic pain, neuropathic pain, and spasticity due to multiple sclerosis is supported by high quality evidence, not just moderate quality. There's damn good evidence it's good for chronic pain, neuropathic pain, and multiple sclerosis spasticity. Now, the evidence for things like glaucoma, anxiety, depression, sleep disorders is weaker, and we've got other qualifying conditions in other states like Hep C, lupus, Crohn's, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, PTSD that haven't had a lot of study yet. That doesn't mean it's not working. Now, as we continue to do more research and more states are becoming legal, we're going to find this evidence that proves what many of us have seen with our own damn eyes or experienced our own damn self. I know plenty of veterans who have gotten relief from their PTSD using medical marijuana. I know plenty of people who've gained an appetite, who've lost spasticity, who've overcome anxiety and depression, who've kicked addictions to harder, deadlier drugs through their use of medical marijuana. I can't wait for the science to catch up.
Where'd you learn that, Cheech? Drug school.
Is there a drug school? That'd be cool. Hey, we got a guest in the studio. It's Jay from Fresh Buds. How you doing, Jay?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, Russ?
Fantastic. He's hanging out here. We're going to be chatting here at the end of the show in the Radical Rant segment. And we got all sorts of specials coming up because you know what Friday is?
It's Dab Friday, Russ.
It's 7:10. I can't believe you didn't know what 7:10 meant.
Well, I'm new to the game. I'm trying to learn.
We'll be right back. 420 Radio. Tune in, turn on, get highly educated. Get.Buzz. .Buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .Buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .Buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .Buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz.
Funky Roller Ring.
This is Big Daddy, and I want you to join me every Thursday night for some good old soul, funk, and disco at the Funky Roller Ring on 420 Radio. You dig?
This is Radical Russ encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay, read the Weed Blog today. Arguing for the end of adult marijuana prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It is even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more in this edition of Drug War Data Mining. Welcome back, everyone. All sorts of great data for you today coming from Washington State as the Tetra Trak company has put out a white paper entitled Business Intelligence Report powered by Tetra Trak for Washington State I-502 processors in the recreational marijuana industry. A nice snapshot on what's going on at the business level. All sorts of nice colorful graphs included. The first thing I noticed right off the bat is a look at the last few quarters, quarter 3 of 2014, where there were sales approaching $20 million. In the fourth quarter of 2014, approaching $45 million. And in the first quarter of 2015, approaching $70 million per quarter. Now, this is directly correlated with the number of producers and the number of retailers. As those number of producers and retailers have grown, producers have just about tripled and the retailers have just about doubled. Of course, we have more people buying marijuana and all sorts of other effects. Now, the first thing that they show in one of their breakdowns is the packaging breakdown. And this is interesting. I've gone to Washington State to their pot shops. And when you're buying there, they tend to have things in 1 gram, 2 gram, 3.5 grams, so an eighth, 7 gram or a quarter, 14 gram, half, or 28 gram, an ounce packages. Right? And so what are the people buying when they go to the pot shop? Well, almost half the people, about 46% of the customers or 46% of the revenue, we should say, not necessarily per customer, right? But 46% of the revenue is 1 gram purchases, which really surprised me. I'm surprised people are buying just 1 gram at a time. 2 gram purchases made up another 28%. So between 1 and 2, that's 3/4 of the sales. 3/4 of the sales of Washington State are coming from small packages of 2 grams or less. Eighths account for about 9% of the market. And then everything else, the greater, from a quarter up is about 17%. So about 1 out of 6 purchases is what I'd call a regular consumer, our type of consumer purchase where you're getting, at least a quarter. Now, the other thing that's happened, as there's been more production and more retail outlets, we have seen a massive decline in the average retail pricing. They produce this nice graph that shows you the price by gram, 2 gram, 3.5 gram, and 7 gram packaging. And the most marked decline, of course, is at the higher weights. At the 7 gram level, that would be about 1/4 of an ounce. Back in August of 2014 is when they experienced their greatest price in Washington State at $167 a quarter. Now, of course, that's including taxes and everything, but $167 a quarter. And now, April of 2015, the most recent data available, down to $76 a quarter. The price at the 7 gram level has declined by more than 50%. And we see similar declines in the prices of an eighth. Top price in September was $90 an eighth, now down to $43 an eighth. And even at the gram level, the high of $27.95 a gram, almost $28 a gram, is down to $13.41 per gram. Now, what is it that people are buying? Well, 79% of the purchases in Washington State are flour. So 4 out of 5 people surveyed like their flour. And then we have edibles taking up 7% of the market, extracts for inhalation 11%, liquids at 3%, and topicals not even registering. But an interesting point to be made here is how greatly this differs. Washington State's levels differ from Colorado's, where edibles make up a huge amount of the market. I forget the exact amount, but it was marked. And to have 4 out of 5 people going for flowers in Washington State, that's a very, very different market. We also see the average retail price by the different types of inventory, and those items that have had the greatest crash in price are topicals, which last November were going at around $85 and now down to about $25. Every other item has also either remained steady or declined slightly. Even extracts, which were somewhere in the $50 or so, $60 a gram, now getting down to about $40. We also see statewide wholesale prices dropping. This is the statewide wholesale price from $16 a gram down to $4 a gram, a decrease of 75% as the retailers increased by 676%. The average retail price declined from about $25 a gram to about $13 a gram. So we are about half of the prices. Now, understand that all of this data comes with the 25% plus 25% plus 25% taxing scheme. And they just changed that taxing scheme to a single 37%. Tetra Trak has projected what happens with this tax change, and if the processors reduce their prices corresponding to the reduction in tax and with the reduction in retail markup, we could see the cost of a gram of marijuana in the state of Washington dropping to $4 wholesale, $8 retail. And even with that, allowing the retailers to increase their margins from 18% to 32%. So everybody is winning here with the taxes decreasing in Washington State, and the way they wrote it to help them get around some of the IRS regulations as well. Retailers can get a great increase in their margin after taxes, and the customers get a great reduction in prices in Washington State. 420 Radio, the world's voice of marijuana legalization. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks are far less than those posed by legal drugs. Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome. Marijuana legalization also ushers in the return of the American hemp industry. Get the latest news from the author of Hempbound and Too High to Fail, Doug Fine, in our Hempday Humpday update. All right, everybody, welcome to our first Hempday Humpday from Legal, Oregon. We got Doug Fine on the line. How you doing, Doug?
Oh, I'm doing great, celebrating like everybody else. Just had a terrific field visit to an Oregon hemp planting and experienced the overall Measure 91 legalization. Congratulations to the Beaver State. It's the best initiative implemented thus far and an important step forward.
Oh, absolutely. Are you in Oregon still?
I am not. I am back on the ranch.
Back on the ranch with Taylor Swift and the rest of the goats?
Taylor Swift is pregnant. My goat Taylor Swift is pregnant, and she's doing a day now.
Well, you'll be a proud goat daddy, I guess. All right, so you talking about Oregon, we've got hemp being planted in Oregon. There was a threat to Oregon hemp. The House passed this bill that was going to put a 2-year moratorium on hemp and pull the plants out of the ground because, oh no, cross-pollination. But the Senate stood up and defeated that bill, so hemp continues to be planted. Doug, tell us about your visit to the hemp farm and what we're looking forward to here in Oregon.
Yeah, sure. I'll start just with the big good news. It's more interesting to me than the politics, especially as the end is predetermined. The end is that Oregon is going to be a premier spot on the planet for humanity to demonstrate the progressive economy that can result from the cannabis plant, all varieties of the cannabis plant being above ground. To the extent that after every successful revolution there's infighting and all that kind of business, and the stories of how it all resolves are interesting to some people. Well, let me see. To me, this is way more interesting, and hopefully to some of the listeners. July 4th, Edgar Winters, Oregon's first modern hemp farmer, he first cultivated hemp at age 7 in Alabama, learned from his grandfather, plants multiple acres of hemp in Oregon on the 4th of July with friends before the barbecue. That was kind of fun and patriotic enough. But after the barbecue, we realized, he realized I was still on hand, so I came down to help, that there was weirdness with the irrigation. So long story short, in the evening, the problem was too much water involving ditch digging and relocation and marveling at the sunset in Oregon, and then bright and early before sunrise, getting down to make sure that the proper irrigation that was supposed to go on did go on overnight. It hadn't. That meant rousing various irrigation officials over the 4th of July weekend at their emergency contact numbers. So hemp is coming back, and humanity will be saying thanks within a few years. Oregon's going to be at the forefront. I'm thrilled at the perseverance of the farmers and that there's hemp in the ground in Oregon today.
Yeah, it's really, really good news. And I hear there's 13 licensees currently in the state of Oregon. Is that what you've heard?
That's right. And I don't know how many have officially planted yet, but I know it's more than one. And then just to answer your question, on the political side, thank goodness for how a bill becomes a law and that there's an entire process, because what prevailed, which is non-interference with the hemp program. What I think the most, and by the way, that last attempt, which was one of many during this legislative session in Oregon at hemp, was not about anything to do with what I hope are temporary misunderstandings between some farmers of various types of the cannabis plant. It was actually because of a provision that said hemp can't be planted within 1,000 feet of schools.
Yeah, what's up with that?
It's too much silliness to even go into, but the whole thing was silly, and I'm glad that it all was solved. But more importantly, it allowed us, to me, who supports all the return of responsible, sustainable, all of the cannabis plant, and want to see that be important in Oregon's economy, and tax base. I don't like to see any friction at all, but the fact is, I think it's going to, in the long run, be a benefit because it will allow folks to really discuss openly what they're doing, and we have to do that. We have to do that when it comes to water use and everything else. There's not going to be any worries about the things that were making a few folks fearful this year about different types of the cannabis plant and cross-pollination and all that. That's not going to even be something people discuss within a few years between hemp and psychoactive cannabis. It's going to be potentially an issue from home folks that are amateurs and learning as everyone first did and might not know how to sex their plants in their backyard being adjacent to commercial cultivation farms. In other words, psychoactive to psychoactive. But all of it can be resolved, I think, through good communication and showing that there was a deeper philosophical reason why legalization was a good thing, which was it's going to make people go about their business with their neighbors better. And that's what I hope the resolution of this is.
Yeah, absolutely. We're speaking with Doug Fine, the author of Hempbound and Too High to Fail. It's our Hempday update. And now that we've got hemp planted in Oregon, what happens from here? I mean, are people ready to process it or produce it or sell it in any way? Where do we go from here?
Well, when I'm reflecting back on this spring and this season, the part that I'm most disappointed in, because there's so many things that have to be resolved, importing seeds, dealing with state and federal issues, moving for legalization of hemp and also cannabis on the federal level. But the one thing that was hardest for me this year was agreeing at one point when I was trying to help farmers talk to the state about how much the state might be willing to import, which is what was necessary to get federal permits, even though that's not necessarily a federal law mandate. And the final negotiation before the state dropped out was centering around limiting it to 5 or 10 acres per farmer. But the fact is we do have biomass processing in Oregon and around the country already, just waiting for those endless acres of hemp. And so to do the research, and remember, we have research legalization only on the federal level, to do research on whether or not Oregon can become energy independent from the cannabis plant, also known as industrial hemp, by incredible amounts of biomass going into clean energy processing, we need large acreage grown. And so it was very frustrating to feel the limitations. And I feel like this hemp industry is, like the overall cannabis industry, ready to burst at the seams. There is no end in sight to the growth. The Canadian industry is growing 24% per year. And one of the reasons it was so important for Oregonians to get significant acreage in the ground, the reason why all of us, anybody who supports any kind of cannabis, but anybody who also supports a positive, sustainable future for Oregon, should be so glad that Oregon hemp farmers succeeded in getting significant acreage in the ground, is that it's the most significant first year. Each state is growing exponentially in acreage as they learn their routine and their process. We're not the only ones to go through growing pains. Kentucky went from a half dozen projects last year to 224 this year. And as you mentioned earlier, Oregon has twice of what Kentucky had in their famous year last year. So more reasons to offer kudos to the Oregon hemp farmers.
Fantastic. So we got Kentucky, and I know Colorado's been growing hemp. Where does hemp sprout next in this country?
Connecticut just legalized yesterday. Tennessee's coming on strong this year. They had a ninth inning victory. They were having trouble with whoever they were dealing with on the federal level, getting approval of the way Kentucky has. And by the way, which was offered to Oregon farmers, hemp farmers this year, but the state just really, in the end, couldn't make it happen in the way that farmers have hoped and that the folks doing negotiation on the federal side had needed, which is basically very similar to So the Kentucky situation, personal farmers making MOUs with the state who actually imports, holds, and distributes the seed for that stupid, ridiculous, last lingering prohibitionary reason that needs to go away anyway. But it just delays things. So anyway, Kentucky figured out a deal. Oregon was able to use that deal this year, but wasn't able to on the administrative side. Tennessee, for some reason, wasn't able to strike that deal till really a few weeks ago, and so they're going big. They have a lot of acreage going, so they're going to be significant. I think North Dakota looks to be good. You mentioned Colorado. Hawaii has a lot of people interested in it, but the state thus far has been restricting research to a very few purposes and single projects, so hopefully that's going to change. And on and on and on. We're 24 states and growing, Russ.
That is great news. Now, as each of these states moves forward in researching hemp and in working with it, I imagine the federal prohibition prevents them from being able to, like, can Oregon get seeds from Kentucky? Can Tennessee send research to Iowa? I mean, how does that work?
That's a good question. And I could give you my own interpretation. I'm not a lawyer, but from studying the arguments, I have confidence that if the argument is made that domestic hemp seeds returning to their genetic origins is actually just a rightful return and not interstate commerce, if that were challenged, I think the hemp side would win because there is a lot of heirloom seed that's still left, domestic seed. Because for whatever reason, the bottom line is when it comes to hemp, the states that are willing at the state level to push back and say to various federal interpreters, no, this is okay, this is okay. They might get a little leeway. There's a lawsuit here and there, but basically the feds are not arguing on hemp. And one of the claims that I don't think is legit coming from the Fed side is that you can, for instance, in Montana, you can distribute hemp seeds within Montana if they can be proven to be from Montana. But as long as if they cross state lines and that's interstate commerce and that has federal jurisdiction, if so, no more so, farmers argue, than any other agricultural crop, which is what hemp now is on the federal level, at least for research purposes. So if you're part of an approved program, you should be able to do that, but farmers are cautious about it. Unless they're willing to challenge. And you hear that a lot, like, we think this is okay and this is right, and if anybody else is claiming otherwise, we'll challenge them in court. And thus far, that hasn't happened. Like, everything it continues to thus far flow smoothly. And Kentucky's into its second year. One of the things Kentucky did that pushed boundaries that was a very conscious thing. The farmers asked the question, the state agriculture department consulted the state's lawyers and came back and said, sales and marketing research means you can sell your crop, and it's still research under the program. In other words, under federally permitted crops. So basically, sell your crop.
That's amazing. Doug Fine, the amazing world of hemp is just exploding all across the United States. We're finally catching up with the rest of the industrialized world, and we thank you so much for being our expert on these matters. We'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Russ. Look forward to it.
And give my best to the goats.
Oh, will do.
I love those kids. See what I did there? All right, when we come back, we'll get into the radical rant. We've got Fresh Buds PDX dispensary owner Jay Bakes in the studio, and all sorts of things to talk about. 710 is coming up on Friday, and we got something special going on for that. So stick around. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
You can get 420 Radio on the go with our Shoutcast stream for all internet-enabled media players. Go to rad-r.us/420shout or just click the Shoutcast icon below the live radio feed at 420radio.org.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs. We've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs. We've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. Five of the last 9 major party candidates to run for president, 3 of the last 9 vice presidential candidates, and the last 3 two-term presidents have all smoked pot. Marijuana, the gateway drug to the White House. This is the Russ Belville Show. Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
That marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug.
Some think there won't be room for them in jail. We'll make room.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it and didn't inhale.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Radical Rant.
All right, everybody, welcome back. And today for the Radical Rant, we just take time to have a little conversation with one of my newest friends here in the Portland marijuana industry. It's Jay Bakes from Fresh Buds PDX. How you doing, Jay?
I'm doing great, Russ. How are you, brother?
I'm great, and I want to play this little clip that I've got. This was a week ago today, or later tonight, I guess.
Who's got the cards? Give me a second. Let me put some things together. I'll come out with some. Does everybody keep it on the DL because we don't need the police to come here and fuck with us?
Yes.
All right. So let's smoke quietly and love each other.
So that, of course, is Jay when he gets the frantic call from his employees that there's an angry mob with torches and pitchforks outside of your business. And I got to say, for facing that, you come off like, you're smooth like McConaughey, man. You're like, all right.
All right on. I am from Iowa, so pitchforks don't fuck with me.
That's it. You're not afraid.
But, more or less, it was a situation I didn't predict and had no control over at the same time. But I had to figure out a way to shine and maybe stop my place from being burnt down. So, it was honestly the most intense situation I've faced in my life.
Yeah. If you want to read more about that, check out my Radical Rant column up in hightimes.com. I've got the breakdown of it and also a link to that video. It's a little cell phone video. It's great. But everybody, most everybody sounded like they chilled out after that. And it was
they did. I wish I could have, done it for 24 hours straight because I think there was that many people there that I had to service. But at the end of the day, it ended up being something that wasn't controlled, that I was glad to be able to control. I know that people had been waiting on the bridge for hours because I was there too. But at the end of the day, I also needed to do something to put a smile on people's faces.
Yeah.
And giving free marijuana at that time seemed like the best option.
The safest option.
And safest.
No kidding. You got to understand where the dispensary is located. It's 110 Southeast Main here. Now, the way Portland is divided, you got Burnside, which is the bridge we were on. It divides your south and your north. And then, or is it east and west? No, south and north. And then the Willamette River divides your east and west, right? Mm-hmm. So where we were on that bridge is like the center point of all the sectors of Portland. And then, up running along the river, you're on 110 Southeast Main. So that's a block off, 2 blocks off the river, isn't it?
Yeah, 2 blocks off the river.
So we got freeway overpasses and industrial warehouse districts.
I mean, people went through, hell and thereafter to get over there. So, I mean, when they got there, they waited.
Yeah.
for me, and there was nobody in the dispensary. Lights were off, the place was closed.
It's like, oh my God.
But there was hope.
Still hope. Somebody will come to us.
Either that or else they're going to get it themselves. So,
yeah.
But it was a moment that I honestly thank the Lord for, because I was able to meet quite a few people that night and take care of quite a few people too.
Yeah, I think you made up a whole lot of brand loyalty too. And it's Fresh Buds PDX. You can find them on Twitter at freshbuds_PDX. PDX is our airport designator. If you're wondering what's the PDX, it's Portland. That's our little 3-letter thing, you know.
I had to learn that as well.
Now, you said you were from Iowa, but you also said East Coast earlier today. So what's your journey that got you here to Oregon?
You know, I went to every I-state basically, other than Idaho.
I'm from Idaho.
So Idaho is probably next. It's right
glad
there.
You skipped it.
You know, everybody thinks it's about potatoes or corn. They mix it up either way. But, you know, I lived in Chicago. I lived in Atlanta for a good part of my life. And that's where a lot of my friends and, you know, my family is there. But I really have grown into Portland in the last, 8 to 10 months that I've been here searching my dream, and realized how important this industry is going to be and what part I can make in it. And I'm not going anywhere.
How long have you been here in Portland?
It's probably been 10 months. So October, I was searching for a retail spot that was very difficult to find, and I eventually just purchased a dispensary that I thought was, needed help.
Yeah.
And took it over and made it a better place, and brought my feng shui and my personality and my charm, if I got some that works, to the business. And, I truly believe in helping people, so I stay there and I talk to people and get to know their issues.
Yeah, I've been down to the Fresh Buds a couple times now, and it's always well lit and comfortable, and people are friendly. It's a great place to visit. You're a medical marijuana dispensary here in the state of Oregon, but I just got done doing a presentation where we learned as of October 1st, you'll be allowed, if Portland doesn't ban it, as if, you'll be allowed to sell to all adults. What do you think about ramping up for October 1st?
Man, I know my landlords aren't happy, but because they're trying to refinance. But aside from that, it's a blessing that I've been looking forward to. I mean, that's the reason why I got into this game, so I could help out not only patients but anybody that was over 21 that wasn't able to be helped. The fee for the card is outrageous.
$200,
it's the highest fee in all the states. And it just makes it difficult for people to even want to get a card. So they're waiting for this recreational move. And I'm going to be there. I'm going to do whatever it takes to provide the medicine and still make my patients happy, because I know that they're worried about that transition.
Yeah.
They're worried that they're going to be left out. And just so you know, Fresh Buds isn't going to leave you out.
Yeah.
All right?
And keep in mind, when this October 1st thing happens, recreational consumers can only buy a quarter ounce.
Right, it's all about flour in the rec world,
and we're not going to be able to buy concentrates or edibles or tinctures or salves or any of that stuff. Flour, seedlings, seeds. That's it.
I mean, that's it. They're going to allow you to grow out of your place, and then you're going to come in and get a variety of flour, which obviously is gives you more power to your
And
medicine.
I think the legislature did that specifically for patients, saying, hey, yeah, we understand. We don't want,
They did, because Colorado allows you to buy 2 ounces. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's why a lot of the product was taken and the patients weren't able to get it. So it's a minimal amount they're allowing, which I think will mitigate that worry.
Is that why you, what made you want to pick Oregon? I mean, it sounds like your dream was to get into the green rush. Why Oregon?
I actually never thought I'd be
Really?
in Oregon. I heard nothing but rain stories, and I was going to be living in a monsoon. And I'm a sunny guy because sun makes me happy. But I knew I'd own a marijuana dispensary, so I'd be happy either way, rain, sleet, or snow.
That's right.
But, my brother-in-law lives here, and the guys that I bought the dispensary from lived here and had this place. So it was an opportunity. I jumped at it, and it's just a moment. I packed up and left in a suitcase.
Wow.
And my dog, Rocky.
You and the dog just making your way to the Oregon Trail.
Matthew McConaughey, right on. But, life is like that. I do live life like Matthew McConaughey. I mean, I was called Spicoli for, a good period of my life because I lived like a surfer. It's been my forte.
You dick!
Hey, that was rude there, Jeff.
Aloha, Mr. Ham. But,
Bud, what's your problem?
But that's my nickname, and it's a happy nickname.
Yeah.
I've always been nicknamed a happy person, and that's what I'll always be. So all these things that I face, I always end up on top. I don't know if there's no pun intended, but the main situation is that, I'm glad that I was able to be there, and I still will be there. And it's about giving. in any situation, and that's what it's about now for the next 3 months, really, because that's that gray area is to give.
That's right.
So anybody needs anything, just come to Fresh Buds. I'll go through your situation with you. I'm not about charging you a bunch of money. It's not about the profit here. You know, that'll come someday in life, but you got to start somewhere to get there. And it's funny, I live a quote day to day, and Ludacris actually said it. He says, if you live a few years of your life like most people won't, you'll live the rest of your life like most people can't. And a lot of times, you know, since I moved here, I gave up a lot, and I am not, you know, I'm having to get by just to make this business work.
Yeah.
And I know that if I hang in there and all the hurdles and all the obstacles I face, I'll get through them, and in the end, it'll all work out.
Yeah.
You know, and I live by that daily. So I hope you guys can take that to heart too, and you know, chase your dream and don't give up, because there's always going to be obstacles and hurdles. And I can tell you right now, man, I've went through a lot in the last 6 months.
Well, yeah.
So, but I'm always going to be here, man. So, you know, I appreciate you, Russ.
Well, thank you, man. I dig where you're coming from too, because doing the finding this job, talking and researching and writing about marijuana, it's like you couldn't have plugged me into a better job, and it's had some roller coaster time to it too. So
wow. I mean,
know where you're coming from.
You sign up for things you don't realize, you know, just to try to.
I've never worked so hard. Like I had cubicle jobs, I had field jobs. I never worked so hard.
Labor jobs, you name it, you know, sprinkler systems, landscaping, but this is a mental job.
That's it.
That plays with your emotions, because you literally have a lot of people dying around you that count on this magic plant that has never really been noticed until the last 5 years, really, and has come out. So I didn't realize what I was getting into as well. You know, I was just a simple pot smoker in Atlanta, and, you know, honestly, took care of everybody that needed it there. But I decided to do it here so I wouldn't get in trouble.
Yeah, I know how that is. I'm from Idaho.
but there, it wasn't like here, because this is truly medicine. And people are dying, and it's now happening around me. So it really affects me emotionally. And that's how, you know, Pork Chop was able to get into me, because I feel for him. I mean, he's dying.
Yeah.
And obviously his mind isn't right now. But no matter what, I'm still here for him too, man, because if he needed some medicine, then I would give it, just like I did the last 3 months knowing him. But just know that I wasn't a part of that mind imagination that he came up with.
I don't think any of us were. Hey, I know putting together a business like Fresh Buds, you can't do it on your own. You got any shout outs, any people you want to thank that help make this possible?
You know, I've met a lot of people here, and one thing right now, a lot of vendors have definitely come through for me, and, you know, Jesse with Golden Extracts, and Ryan with CO2 Company, and a lot of flower, a lot of growers that I've gotten to know, NW Kind. You know, there's Wi-Fi Farms. Hi-Fi Farms. Sorry, I'm sorry, honey. But either way, you know, I just appreciate all the love that I've been given since I've gotten here, and, you know, I'm glad I was able to give it back in some sort, and we'll keep trying. But in this game, it's all about a relationship and connections that you make, so that way you can constantly help people and also better yourself, because I don't know everything, and no one knows everything. And this industry is nothing but learning something new. So I'm all about learning something new every day myself. Right on, right on, right on.
Right on, right on, right on. Absolutely.
Give me a second. Let me put some things together. I'll come out with some. Just everybody keep it on the DL, because we don't need the police to come here and fuck with us.
Yes.
All right?
I don't need that.
So let's smoke quietly and love
each other. Let's smoke quietly and love each other. That's my quote of the year. I love it. Jay Bakes from the Fresh Buds PDX Dispensary, 110 Southeast Main Street in Portland. Check them out online. What's the website?
The website is actually being put together as we speak.
Got Facebook?
So yeah, we do have Facebook. So
Fresh Buds
PDX, as well as our Twitter and our Leafly account. So
FreshBuds_PDX for the Twitter. He's Jay. I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us here. Stay tuned. Hour 2. We'll keep talking, hanging out. We'll also take your calls toll free at 84-420 radio. That's 844-207-2346. For everyone here at Rolla J Studios in legal Potland, Oregon, I'm Radical Russ. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it.